Hey guys, how's everyone doing? This is Sir Jedi Sentinel, and welcome to another Sentinel Reviews. Our look at Doctor Who Series 11 continues with Episode 12, The Ghost Monument. I will be painting in the broad strokes first, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty and spoilers. So, first things first, this episode we finally get the new opening sequence. And I love it. It is just so dazzling and vibrant and just beautiful. I also love the arrangement for the theme. It's very... I'm not musically trained, so botched terminology here. It's much deeper, lower than the previous New Who themes have been played. And you know, that sort of deeper theme combined with the visuals that have been mirrored, because, you know, there's a mirror going down the middle, so they're reflections of each other. It reminds me a lot of the Hartnell, Troughton, and Pertwee openings. And it's just so amazing and gorgeous to look at, which brings me to my next point. This entire episode is just beautiful to look at. We saw a little bit of it with episode 1, The Woman Who Fell to Earth, but most of that episode took place at night. So we didn't see a lot of it. Here, most of this episode takes place at day, so we get to see a lot more with the visuals. The colors are just amazing. They're so bright and dazzling, and they just pop. The color composition is stunning. You know, compared to the Peter Capaldi era, which that's just the one I'm going to because that was the most recent one. That's the one I watched the most recently, so it's the one freshest in my mind. The colors were always sort of muted, you know, and it seemed like a lot of the scenes had a grayscale or sepia filter applied to them, very faintly, thus kind of muting things further. But here, everything just pops. It's so bright and vivid. And the effects are great, too. Like I said last season, it feels like the effects we're seeing, it feels like Doctor Who finally has a decent budget. We're only 2 episodes in, so I'm not going to say anything concrete, but I predict that Series 11 thus far will be the most visually stunning season of New Who we've ever had. And now the characters. Jodie Whittaker, I'm still not there yet. She is growing on me. She's warming up. She took much bigger strides this episode, you know, now that the post-regeneration trauma is over, but she hasn't just clicked for me yet. But no, yeah, I am warming up to her. A lot of people have, I've seen, compared her to David Tennant in the 10th Doctor, and personally, I just don't see it. That's just me, though. There is, except for one scene, but there is one thing I've noticed. And again, we're only 2 episodes in, so I'm not saying anything concrete, but it feels like Jodie is playing the Doctor more human than alien. You know, she's... You know, some of the actors just... I don't really know how to explain this, but they sort of lean more human in playing the role. David Tennant did it. Peter Davison did it. And then some actors play the role much more alien. They embrace that the Doctor is an alien and play it up as much as possible. Tom Baker, Matt Smith, Patrick Troughton, Colin Baker, with everyone else sort of playing it in the middle. Like I said, nothing concrete, 2 episodes in, but it seems like Jodie is leaning more towards the human side of that scale. And if that ends up being the case, I will be a little disappointed because I'm not as a big fan of the more human portrayal of the Doctor. But, like I said, we'll see. The companions were very lacking in this episode. You know, it feels like with all the events going on, they just weren't given much to do, and they kind of took a back seat, which was disappointing because I feel like we still haven't learned much about them yet. Of the companions, I'd probably say Graham is my favorite. He seems the most developed, and his actor seems to be giving the best performance. Ryan is hit and miss. Like, I don't dislike him. I don't dislike any of them. But, he's very meh for me right now. He does something cool, but every so often, but that's kind of it. And as of right now, I have issues with him having dyspraxia. I don't have it myself, so I'm going to try and ghost over this as fast as possible. The fact that Ryan has a disability is very interesting. It's very unique, because I don't think a companion has ever had something like that before. Scratch that, Evelyn had a heart condition. But, yeah, it feels like right now it only happens when the plot demands it happens. Like, there's a scene where they are running from something, and Ryan trips and falls, or there's a few scenes where he talks about not liking that he has to climb ladders all the time. And it's just, the first episode did a really good job of portraying that he's continually struggling with it, but this episode, it made it more seem like, oh, right, the plot demands I have this thing, so I better have this thing. And then Yaz. Yaz, of the three companions, is the weak link for me. It's just that I think the actress just has nothing to work with yet. Yeah, I can't even think of anything to talk about regarding Yaz. So now the episode itself, the Ghost Monument. It was good. It was much better than The Woman Who Fell to Earth. I still had some big issues with it, and I'll get into those a little bit later, but what's the plot? Basically, tracking down her TARDIS, the Doctor and her companions are rescued by two people and arrive on the planet Desolation, where they find out these two people are in the middle of a race, and the Ghost Monument is their finish line. So when I first heard it, I didn't know what to think, but watching the episode again, I really like this plot, just a race to the finish line. Because thinking back on it, I don't think Doctor Who has ever done this plot before. Yes, there was always a race against time or something, but just like a start to finish race, I don't think we've ever had that before. And just realizing that we've never had that before, it felt really refreshing. And really, at that point, there's nothing more I can talk about without getting into the specifics and spoilers, so this is your spoiler warning. If you haven't seen The Ghost Monument yet, I suggest you pause this video and watch it now, or proceed forward at your own volition. We had three side characters this episode, the two racers and the man orchestrating the race. Angstrom, Epso, and Ilin. I almost said something different. And I thought they were all varying degrees of good. I thought the weakest was Epso. As we learn about him going through this race, he is, the stereotypical lone wolf. It's like, you can't trust anyone but yourself. I look out for number one, and number one alone. It's just, I have nothing against this character. It's just been done so much better. Just, the entire episode, Epso felt really cliched. Angstrom, on the other hand, is kind of the direct opposite of Epso. She is fighting for her family. She is competing in this race to help her family. Looking at it on paper, there's nothing really that sets her apart from other characters of this type before, but I think what helps her is that this actress is really selling it. In a way that Epso didn't. And Ilin, the third side character here, who is running this race, he's barely in it. He only shows up at the start and at the end, but I liked him. He was very charismatic and presented himself in a way that was antagonistic. Like, Yes, this was an opposition for the Doctor and the companions to overcome, but he wasn't villainous. It was pretty much, look, I can't help you. I'm running this race. There are rules for it, so I'm sorry. And I liked that. Like I talked about a little bit. I like villains who aren't actually villains. They're antagonists to the protagonist, but they aren't evil. I like that the Ghost Monument is the TARDIS. It's when it's first explained, Ilan says the Ghost Monument is this relic that every so often shows up but then fades out of existence, and then we see that it's actually the TARDIS. It's like, I thought it was cute. I thought it was a good way to tie the TARDIS and the Doctor finding the TARDIS into the plot with this race. And when I first watched the episode, I didn't know what to think, but watching it again, I just went, it's weird how much sense that makes. I'm gonna save the TARDIS for the end of this review, because before I want to end on a good note, because I do have one very massive nitpick. So the Doctor, her companions, and these two racers are going through this planet, Desolation, and we learn that this planet is basically a weapons lab. Scientists from all over the universe were kidnapped and were forced to build and test these weapons. Sorry about that, had to cut away for a second. Anyway, the planet Desolation, as we learn, is a weapons lab where all these weapons have been built and tested, and that is why the planet is in the decrepit state that it's in. There was a scene briefly where the Doctor and the companions enter these ruins, and we find out that the ruins were a testing range for sniping robots. And the robots get activated, and while they're trying to hide, Ryan picks up a gun and says, I can take care of this. The Doctor has her big no guns moment, which is the only instance I'll concede that she is similar to Tennant in. I'm not getting any more into that. And Ryan basically says, Call of Duty. I trained for this. Oh. That was stupid. That was stupid. I'm going to move on because I can only find so many ways to repeat, that was stupid. Anyway, I'm going to skip a little bit here and come back to it because that gets to the end, because that'll tie into my critique. And then the group are later attacked by sentient gauze. I'm not going to say that's stupid or that comes out of nowhere, because every so often throughout the episode, the camera would just cut away and pan away and cut to this cloth lying around. And it kept cutting to it, and it's like, oh, what's going on? And then we learn that, yeah, it's another weapon built in this lab, and it's sentient gauze. Now, this perfectly ties into my big issue with this episode. In promoting for Series 11, Chris Chibnall, the new showrunner, promised two things. One, there would be no returning foes this series. We wouldn't see the Daleks, the Cybermen, the Sontarans, the Masters, so on. Two, there would be no series arc. Like Series 1 had Bad Wolf, Series 3 had Mr. Saxon, Series 8 had The Promised Land, Series 9 The Hybrid, and so on. Chris Chibnall said there would be no arc. In this episode, it looks like we've got the beginnings of two story arcs. The first arc, when they are underground, when the characters are underground, they found a message left by the scientists saying they were held captive and forced to build weapons for a race called the Stenza. Now, in episode 1, the woman who fell to Earth, the antagonist they faced, Tim Shaw, who the Doctor mockingly called Tim Shaw, was a Stenza. And Angstrom even says that the Stenza are the ones terrorizing her people. And this just feels like the starting of a series arc. It feels like the Stenza are going to be a main antagonist. And if it's not, that is a really out of place reference, and it's really weird to give as much focus as they do on it. The other arc that it feels like they're starting is later, when they are attacked by the sentient gauze. It reveals it's telepathic. Yeah, that might just cross... That walks... The sentient gauze already walked a fine line between clever and stupid, and I feel like making it telepathic kinda tips it towards stupid, but... Yeah, anyway, as they are about to attack the group, they call the Doctor the Timeless Child, and they say... I don't remember the exact quote. Let me check my notes. I have it written. They say, "We see what's hidden even from you." First of all, no. It's like, don't tell us anything about the Doctor. For 55 years, this character has been shrouded in mystery. And I feel like if they try to give us anything concrete about the Doctor, it's never going to live up to the expectations we, the fans, have built up ourselves. I honestly feel like that's one of the reasons Longbarrow was changed to Ghostlight. But also, it's just the series arc. Please, if these are the Stenza and the Timeless Child end up being arcs, no. No. When it comes to advertising a new season of a show, as Chris Chibnall did, there's teasing the audience about what's to come, there's misleading them about what's to come, and then there's outright lying to your audience. Guess which one of these works the least well? Yeah, honestly, it's like, you've planted these seeds. I hope they go nowhere. I don't want another series arc. The series arcs are never that good anyway. Like, individual episodes are good, but the arc as a whole is never that good. The only exception, for me anyway, everyone has their own opinion, was the Promised Land / Afterlife arc, Series 8. But yeah, anyway, the episode goes on. There are the winners of the race. Both contestants... why did that take me so hard to word? Both contestants cross the finish line together, and the race is declared a tie. And they are forced to leave the Doctor and co. behind. And then they find the TARDIS. Now, the TARDIS... From what I've heard, the pictures made it kind of hard to see. Even the exterior was getting a makeover. And I want to see more of it because I feel like we didn't get enough thus far. But, you know, from the distance, and it might have been hard to tell because the lighting, you know, this scene took place at sunset. But from the distance, the TARDIS looked this dark, sort of royal blue. But up close, there was a lot of teal there. And even the free for public use plaque had changed. I thought it looked cool. Yeah, I just can't talk more on the exterior because we didn't really see a lot of it. Now, the interior, the new Doctor's console room. I like it. I don't love it. I have mixed feelings about it. This never came up before in any of my talks about Doctor Who, but my favorite TARDIS console room is the 8th Doctor's from the movie. But anyway, there are things I like about this Doctor's TARDIS console room, and there are things I don't like. Another YouTuber, Council of Geeks, pointed this out. I love the warm colors. You know, like from Matt Smith to Capaldi, all of the TARDIS consoles had very cool colors, a cool color scheme, you know, like blues, greens, silvers, and so on. And here, there's a lot of warm colors, you know, oranges, yellows. So that feels different. It feels like a shift. I like the design of the roundels. I thought, oh, that, you know, that looks really cool. My critique about them is, you know, it always felt like the roundels had a use. In classic Who, we even see the Doctor accessing the roundels from time to time. We even saw it in Twice Upon a Time. Here, the roundels feel purely aesthetic. I do like the aesthetic, but it feels like there's no function to them. I like the crystal aesthetic of the TARDIS. I love the crystal pillars surrounding it. It sort of gives a vibe of the pillars surrounding the 8th Doctor's TARDIS, and I love the crystal central column. The console itself, I'm kind of hit and miss on, but to be fair, we didn't see a lot of it. You know, we saw quick flashes here and there. We didn't really see a lot of it. Like, the hourglass was cute, but I just love hourglasses, but it was really on the nose. My biggest issue with the console was the lighting. It's very dark, and it sort of feels like that darkness doesn't match this Doctor at all. Did I talk about the crystal aesthetic? I like the crystal aesthetic. Yeah, I talked about it. But no, yeah, the lighting is probably the biggest weakness of this console for me. It also makes everything feel closed off. Like, in all of the TARDISes from Classic and New Who, yes, we mostly saw the console room, but you could always see doorways and hallways to other parts of the TARDIS. Here, in this one, you don't see those. So it really feels isolated. It feels really closed off. So, yeah, those are... Overall, the Ghost Monument was a strong episode. It had its issues. I wouldn't call it a great episode, given we're only 2 episodes in. I would probably give it a solid 7 out of 10. So, these were my thoughts on the Ghost Monument. What did you think? Like, comment, subscribe, and then click that little bell in the corner next to subscribe to get notifications when I upload. Because YouTube doesn't know what subscribe means. This is Sir Jedi Sentinel, and I'll see you guys next time.